And just so you know, Sherry, when I read it, I got it. Now I get the joke, and I'm glad you won. Okay, so all right. So Norris Lusche, from the beginning, you know, Norris was a dear friend of mine and a dear friend of Bob's, and he actually served as Kiwanis governor of the Rocky Mountain District the same year my grandfather served as Kiwanis governor of California, Nevada, and Hawaii, and they were very good friends. And I ran across this right here. I forgot to give this to Josephine, but look at this right here. This is when Norris was running for governor-elect for our district. It's like, what does it say? Drumming up support for Norris Lusche. I mean, how clever was that? That's how he did that, and he put that out there. And so Norris was a dear friend to both of us, and he was international president in 1989. Norris, just so you know, that last night, the president that was a year before him, a man named Gene Overholt, actually passed away last night. Norris and Gene were best friends. They golfed together all the time. So it's kind of strange to get that email this morning that his good friend at 98 years old passed away last night. But Norris was our first international president from our district. We've had a lot of trustees. We've had now a president of the foundation, and now obviously a president again. So, but what Norris brought to our district was an ability to draw us together, an ability to bring us together to work for a common cause. And the way the Lusche came about, hey, why don't you show one of those videos? Why don't you show the video of Norris dancing so they get a little cue of who Norris really was?
So I don't have any video of Norris dancing. I have pictures.
Okay, well, I thought the picture was a video, but that's all right. Just
Okay.
grab a picture. Just pick a picture, any picture. It doesn't matter.
Okay. So here's some of him.
That one right there, I thought was a video, but it might not be.
Yeah, just a. Oh, Bert, you know, I'm having talk for a minute longer. Sorry, it's not working.
Well, let's tell Bob. Bob, when did you first meet Norris?
I want to say that is when I first became a lieutenant governor is when I first got acquainted with Norris, and it's been a road ever since. He's been on my side. He's been a companion and a mentor. Most of all, he became my Kiwanis dad in the district, and I think that that says a lot. Those of you that knew Norris would know what he's about. Those of you that don't, hopefully we can shed some light on this stuff. You know, it occurred to me that I've heard a proverb that I can't trace the origin, but a person dies twice. First, when their heart stops beating, and second, when people stop talking about them. And I think at least for Bert and me and our sidekick Kelly, the past Rocky Mountain District Governor Kelly Steck James, that's what we want to try to do as much as possible to keep Norris's memory and his impact on Kiwanis alive.
So here's a picture. I got a couple more pictures while she's trying to do that. And Norris gave all the past governors a package a couple of years before he passed away. And it was really kind of neat. It was some of his stories, some of his history of when he was international president and just other things that were in there. But here's this great picture. That is Norris Lusche in the Oval Office with Jeannie and George Bush Sr. And as Kiwanis International President, he met with the U.S. President and talked about it. And he also met, and there's a story in here, at the same time, in the same year, he met with Ronald Reagan in Switzerland. And they met and they had like a coffee together for like 30 minutes just talking about, you know, Kiwanis and how Kiwanis could impact children and how Kiwanis impacts the community. And he was a great ambassador for our organization because he was able to get in and speak to a lot of people that, you know, Bob and I have been trying to get in to talk to the governor for 6 months now, and he won't even respond to us. But Norris was talking to the president of the U.S. There he is. There's that great picture of Norris and Jeannie right there. Oh, that one right there was a video, and that was at the Key Club convention. And Norris would always go to the Key Club convention, and they were in there dancing. And I said, Norris, you should go out there and dance. And Norris decided to do a little jig right there in front of Bob and Kelly and I and a few others, and that was who Norris was. He was always willing to have a good time, always laughing, always great sense of humor. I don't know if you remember that night. Oh, look at there. That looks like Norris, Bert, and Bob right there. So it's true, Bob. We did know him.
We did. Yeah. And I imagine Kelly was taking the picture.
Yeah, I think I still have that tie.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, but no, so Norris was a great ambassador for Kiwanis, and when he got done being international president, that was when the Children's Fund. That was the year that he passed away. That was the memorial they did for Norris at the international convention in Indianapolis. So anyway, let's get out of the pictures real quick. Josephine will. So when Norris was president and the foundation was just starting off, that is when the foundation decided to do a Lusche Fellow. So Bob, do you want to go into the original reason why they were doing a Lusche Fellow?
Yeah, so I don't recall the dates, and I think it preceded my time in Kiwanis, but there was about the time the foundation was being formed, a past Kiwanis trustee, Rod Ellerbush, was visiting a children's hospital in Boston. And at that hospital, they had what they call the Kiwanis Pediatric Trauma Institute, and it was a Kiwanis sponsored venture partnership with the Children's Hospital. And Rod thought that'd be a good idea to bring that back to Denver and go to the Kiwanis Children's Hospital, or the Children's Hospital here in Denver. And so with that, they started to develop a partnership, and as a way of raising funding and recognizing Norris, the foundation started the Lusche Fellowship. For those of you that were around during our KPTI days with Children's Hospital, you might remember the Jungle Mobile. And the Jungle Mobile was a converted ambulance that was dressed up like a jungle with monkeys hanging from the top and the like, and it had a bunch of computer monitors, and it traveled the district teaching safety smarts to children around the district. And I imagine several people on this call were drivers for that. Unfortunately, our relationship ended with Children's Hospital several years ago, but it was a great event. But that was as my understanding, that was the start of the Lusche Fellow as a fundraising opportunity to raise money for the Kiwanis Pediatric Trauma Institute in Denver. For those of you that were around at that time, you recall there was a Kiwanis night at Children's Hospital where they were talking about that stuff. We got tours of talking about the difference between pediatric sized equipment and pediatric operating rooms. Like the other thing that funding did was it provided pediatric instruments for ambulances around, especially around the district in rural areas in Colorado and Wyoming and Nebraska. So this was all an effort, and it was designed to recognize Norris and to raise funds for the foundation.
And so it started out, and it still is, $1,000. And when you first joined years ago, we got this beautiful plum jacket that matches absolutely nothing in your wardrobe. But we all love these jackets. I still have mine, and I'm going to try to remember it this year for the convention to wear it. And then you got this Lusche medallion. Now they give you the shirt like Bob is wearing, but Norris, he loved these jackets. Norris absolutely loved them when he'd see everybody in them, and he'd saw them, and if he wore them to the convention, because purple is kind of our color. The Rocky Mountain District has always kind of adopted purple or as our district color. When you go to conventions, you'll see Florida, everybody's wearing orange jackets. So you see New England, they're all wearing red jackets, and you see PNW uses red. But we always had this purple color, and so we would always wear those purple shirts back in the day. And but Norris absolutely adored these jackets. There's a lot of people that had a hard time getting something a tie to go with it. I know that spent like 4 hours one day trying to find a shirt and tie just for this jacket. So but that's what it was, and that's how it got started. That's how we got going with the Lusche Fellow, was when we started the Kiwanis Pediatric Trauma Institute. And the Trauma Institute was specifically for teaching children how to be safe, like quad safety, like riding on their side-by-sides out in a rural area, tractor safety, bicycle safety. It wasn't necessarily treating them if they got injured. It was teaching them not to get injured. And so it was a very unique thing that our district did, that we were known all around the region for being able to do this. And that's how we got started on it. But Norris as a person, and then I'll ask Bob, Norris as a person, one of my best recollections from Norris was the sense of humor that you didn't know he had. Norris would walk around, I kid you not, Norris would walk around with a dollar bill with a piece of tape on a fishing line. And he would drop that dollar bill at a convention. And when somebody would try to pick up that dollar bill, he would jerk that fishing line and he'd jerk that dollar bill away from him, just start howling, laughing. This was the guy, our past international president, that did this all the time. It was so funny watching him do that. And he just had a way of telling stories that, you know, and just kind of draw you into him. And that's one of the funny things I loved about Norris, is just his sense of humor. Bob has got a very good story about his wife, Jeannie, and what her real name is.
Yeah, so we always knew Norris's wife Jeannie as Jeannie, and they were really the first family of the Rocky Mountain District. And we discovered that and we knew that their daughter's name was Jean. And so we wanted to make sure not to mess those up or mix those up. Then we got to the funeral, Jeannie's funeral in Lakewood, I believe. And the pastor started talking about Jean in the casket, and we said, that's not Jean, that's Jeannie. And then finally, Jean, the daughter, finally goes, yeah, she's always been Jean. You guys just always called her Jeannie, and she was too polite for it to stop the story. So that's the part of Norris that was he kept that a secret too. My version of the dollar bill was Norris took great pride in wanting to split dinners or meals with anybody. So he would take somebody out to dinner and we would talk, and he would say, okay, why don't we split the bill? Here's my half. And he pulled out an expired credit card cut in half to make sure that we sure knew that he was willing to split this bill, just the credit card wouldn't work.
Oh, I think is Carol still on the call? I think Carol was the one that bought and Dick Ramsetter, they were going back and forth down in Alamosa, remember?
Yeah. So let's there was a Joe, can you put up the wagon, the red wagon picture?
Yep.
But this was one of the last years that we had our relationship with Children's Hospital, and as a fundraiser, and I think you're right, Bert, I think it was in Grand Junction, we decided to do a fundraiser. So we got donations from several establishments that sold certain types of products that represented the Rocky Mountain District, and filled the wagon. And the wagon is from Children's Hospital, and you'll recognize that by the stand that has the blood, the plasma bag attached to it. And we got that donated from Children's Hospital. And then I can't remember who it was, but somebody managed to fill that with a fine Malbec wine just to put this out together. So ahead of this, we decided we wanted to make this a fundraiser. But before we did that, we talked to Jeannie and said, Jeannie, we're going to take all of this wine out here. Would you be willing to get in the wagon? We will drag you around the convention, and we will ask people to bid on that as an auction, to auction you off. And she was a good sport about it. And she said, sure, I'll get in. And so we paraded her around and says, who's going to offer something for Jeannie to take home? And finally, Norris reluctantly raised his hand. He says, I'll give you $5. And the rest of the crowd went silent because nobody was going to outbid Norris. So Norris got Jeannie back for $5. We went back to the back, refilled the wagon, and then we had quite a bidding war. And I don't recall who was the two, but they both bid $1,000. And so we gave it to, maybe it might have been Carol. We gave it to Carol, and then afterwards, Dick Ramstetter. And those of you that know Dick, I don't know if he's on the call here or not. Dick came to the side and says, you find another wagon and you got another $1,000. At which point we kind of sprinted out of the room and got on the phone with Children's Hospital to do that. But yeah, the joy was watching Jeannie be a good sport, but also Norris doing that too, and decided he wasn't going to spend any more than $5 for his wife to get his wife back.
What other pictures you got in there, Josephine? We can maybe talk a little bit about those. I can't see them at the bottom. Oh, so this is a great story. Thanks for pulling this one up. So just last month, I was in India, in New Delhi, India, And this club that I was at right here has a prosthetic hospital where it's actually the club pays for everything.
Join the meeting.
The club pays for everything, and they build prosthetics, and then they help people that have lost a limb either through accidents or diseases or for whatever reason they've lost a limb, and then they help them with their prosthetics. And the New Delhi Club pays for it all. And if you look at it now, she can show you the next picture that has that. Look who signed the name. I'm pointing to my screen like you could see me. Look who the president was and signed the name when the New Delhi Club was started way back in June of 1990. Norris. And so it made me, it was really cool to see that hanging on their wall in New Delhi, India, with this very successful Kiwanis club, and they still have that hanging up from years ago, and that's Norris's signature right there, or a facsimile of it. So, what else you got there? So that was, and this is kind of a unique picture too. So there's Kelly and myself. But the home club of the district governor, you can't really see, but at the very top, right under the H and the O, right there, it says Norris Lusche, 1977, 78. And in the very bottom corner, about where my toe is, way down there in the bottom corner, is my name. That was the first name and the last name that went on that current banner because we ran out of room. And so I thought that was very cool that Norris's name was first, mine was last. The next year we started a new banner with Bob. And so don't know who's going to be the last name on that one, but I'm sure there'll be a connection with that one too. But it was just kind of unique to have, you know, Norris and I available to hold that banner together. And so it was just a great perspective. So what we're trying to tell you is that Norris Lusche and a Lusche fellow is a real person. I mean, he meant so much to our district, and they really were the first family and they were like our parents to all of us. And he cared so much about our district. I think he was in the office when Pam Bilby was the secretary about once or twice a week. So I don't know. What do you think, Bob? Maybe 3 times?
Well, yeah, but in fairness, yeah, I think he was over there so he could run copies off the copy or like the district copy machine, so he didn't have to go to the Kinko's or whatever. But yeah, he was doing that too. You know, the other thing that a couple of things there that I don't know, he was fond of talking about at the international level was, and I can't remember who the president was when he was trustee, but whenever they had a board meeting, a KI board meeting, the president would walk in and he would go on the easel, on the paper easel thing, and he would write members. And he would start the meeting by pointing to that and saying, gentlemen, at the time it was gentlemen, this is the only reason we're here. And if we have conversations, if we make decisions that don't involve the members, then we need to figure out something else to do to make sure that they are. So he had a very strong feeling about the membership, that's what mattered, that's where we were too. He also had an uncanny sense of timing, for me anyway. As those of you who've been governors and had to get your portrait taken at KI, we had this long line of people that were waiting to get in and for the photographer. And I had just gotten called up to be the photographer, and my cell phone rings. And who is it? It's Norris. It's saying, I bet you're about ready to get your picture taken right now, and I just want you to know that you're going to have a great year. And I had to say, Norris, I got to hang up now because I'm getting my picture taken, but I'll call you back. On October 1st of my term, I got home that night, and there was a voice message from Norris that said, Bob, congratulations. I know you're going to have a great year. I'm here to support you in any way I can. And that's what Norris was about. He was supporting anybody at the leaders. He was supporting lieutenant governors. He was supporting everybody that he could possibly do and share what he had. But his deal was membership and Kiwanis.
So I'll answer Tom's question. Tom, when he was governor and when he was president, he was a member of the South Denver Club. And then later in life, he became a member of the Lakewood Club. I believe it was the Lakewood Club that met at the golf course. There might have been another Evergreen. They met at a golf course. They met at like Friday at like 9 in the morning. It was a perfect Kiwanis club. Friday at 9, and nobody went to work after that. So they only worked 4 days a week. If you remember that club,
It might have been the Green Mountain Club.
Green Mountain Club. Yeah,
Right.
might have been.
Right.
Yeah, and they had a rigged Ace of Spades contest like the UPass Club does. In fact, that's where we copied it from, was Norris's club. They had that rigged Ace of Spades just like ours. And I'm not saying nothing because Scott Hughes isn't on call to hear me say that, but you know, so Norris would always call the governor when he knew, somehow he always knew when the governor-elect training was. And he would always call the governor the day before, or right then, that you're getting ready to go. And his passion was the Rocky Mountain District. It really was. And he always wanted us to be the best that we could be. And he was always encouraging to every governor. And I remember getting that phone call, you know, before I went, like Bob got that phone call. And he would call you and he would say, hey, this is what you're going to happen. This is what to expect. But most of all, just enjoy it, you know, soak it all in, realize how big our organization is and how big of a impact you will have as governor. And so I've kind of been trying to do that. I think I've stayed up on every governor that was going to governor-elect training, but it was just who he was. He just did that. And he had an uncanny ability to remember people and facts about people. Bob, myself, Kelly, we met Sylvester Neal, who was the president at the time when I was governor. And we met Norris and Jeannie for dinner. And Norris just started rattling off people that was governor with him, and the past president, different one. He goes, yeah, and his birthday was such and such a date, and his birthday was this, you know, and this one, and his wife's name was this, you know, and Kelly just said, I'm sorry, but this is exactly what Kelly said. Okay, I call bullshit on all this. There's no way you remember any of this. And he did. And Jeannie said, no, he really does know. When he gets to know you, he knows when your birthday is. He'll send you, you know, he would send you a card, and he would always type the card. He never wrote a card. If you ever got a card from Norris, it was typed out with his signature at the bottom. And how did he always end a phone call, Bob?
It's been long enough ago. Something about, you know, the Rocky Mountain District, and you're going to do a great job. You're going to do a great job. So
with me, he would always, whenever we get done, when you knew when Norris was done talking on the phone and he was ready to call it, he goes, okay, love to Sandy, hang up. so every time I call Kelly, I always say, well, love to Phil, and hang up on her. Yeah. So, yeah. So does anybody, I saw some things in the chat. I'd probably answer some questions. He fell asleep. Don said he fell asleep during one of the speakers. I hope it wasn't me speaking. So
not San Antonio.
Carrie, that's pretty cool that you met him at the Icon when you were governor Circle K. Where was that at?
I think it was the Anaheim convention in 1990, but it might have been either the year before or the year after. I am old, Bert, and my memory is a little hazy.
Okay, that's all right. That's
89
cool,
to 91 time span.
Well, that's very cool. So
I can't remember if he was president or immediate past president.
He would have been immediate past president.
Immediate past, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a kid from Regis in Denver was the governor of Rocky Mountain Circle K at the time. Nick, I can't remember his last name either, but because we were buddies, like I think Norris came and like spoke at the conference, obviously, but I just remember getting to meet him sort of separately, and it was a big deal, right? To be, I don't know, 20 or whatever I was, and get to have an audience with the bigwigs.
You know, Norris gave me my Lusche at a convention, and he would love to travel around. And if he could do it when he was a little bit younger, he would go to the clubs and he would deliver some of these Lusches, and he would love to make a big presentation at the district convention or a mid-year and hand these out. So I would imagine, you know, there's quite a few Lusche recipients that actually got their Lusche handed to them
Yeah.
by Norris, so that was kind of a cool thing that Norris would always do.
We just had our eye openers. We just had our 50th anniversary celebration, and one of our past presidents, Jim O'Neill, came up and said, "Just want to tell you my story about Norris." Jim was in the process of installing a guy named Marty Leake as the incoming president, and because Norris knew the Leake family, he made it a point to come up and install Marty on him by himself, and with Jeannie. And just make that trip because he wanted to recognize Marty and make sure that he got off to a good start. I think the other part of this too is after Norris's passing, that didn't stop Jeannie from attending conventions, that district conventions, mid-year conventions. She was always there and was always continuing the Norris humor, or maybe it was the Jeannie humor that just Norris copied for all those years. But she was just as relevant in the Kiwanis group as Norris was.
Bert, I have a memory. I used to go to the South Denver Club meetings with a fellow named Robert Harper, if you remember Bob Harper. And so this was before women were allowed to be Kiwanians. So I was kind of an interloper, having lunch with my friend Bob Harper. And he introduced me to Norris. And as we walked away, I said, "Boy, he's a sweet guy." And Bob Harper says, "Yeah, but he doesn't sing as well as I do."
Norris
If
was
anybody remembers Bob Harper, that would be Bob Harper.
I think that's one of the things that people don't remember or know about Norris. Norris was one of the most patriotic men you will ever meet. I mean, he put on the bicentennial presentation. So here he is dressed up, and he did over 600 of these things around to schools and to church groups and Kiwanis groups. And he would go around and he would talk about the bicentennial, the Constitution, the flag, and he would talk about all that. And it was a big deal that Norris made sure that the U.S. flag was always on the convention floor, because of, especially in the U.S., and that it would always be in the parade of flags, would always be part of the convention. A couple of years that didn't happen, and that really upset Norris. And to the point, just so you know, that when we were planning the convention in Minneapolis, I said, "I don't know if it's in your plans or not, but the U.S. flag will be on the stage at all times where it's supposed to be at this convention, and we're doing that solely, because we should, but most of all on behalf of Norris." And so I did that, and we're doing the parade of flags. We haven't done the parade of flags in a long time, but I said, I want to do that. And a lot of that is just because of the history that Norris taught me and the respect that Norris showed, not only for our country, but for our organization and patriotism. And it's a big part of our Objects of Kiwanis, which will be celebrated next year. This patriotism is right there in, I think it's object number 3, and none of you know, so I can just guess that and wing it, and nobody will be able to correct me. So, and there's no truth to the story that Norris was there in 1924 when they adopted the Objects of Kiwanis. So,
Despite what he would tell us.
Yeah, he probably would tell us he was there. Yeah. So, I think we probably have time for just a couple of questions. If anybody wants to know what Lusche is used for today, I think most people get a Lusche now as recognition from their clubs and recognition, for what they do in Kiwanis, and that's how our club uses it. We do a Lusche 1 or 2 each year, and we recognize a member that has excelled at that, that year and excelled as a Kiwanian, and we want to recognize them. And this is our way to recognize them, with somebody very special. And also, it's just a great way as a club to recognize a member, a president or past president, a lieutenant governor. So always look for that opportunity to support the foundation in that way.
Yeah, and I think also along with that is it's just not a donation to the foundation. It's again a reminder of Norris, who he was, what he was about, and continuing his legacy in the district, because that's a special thing. And I want to thank Josephine and was to ask for this presentation. I want to thank Bert for including me on this deal, because it allows both of us, I think, to reflect on what Norris really meant over the last however many years we knew him, and how he influenced our lives, both in Kiwanis and just in general.
So I'm looking in the chats here. That's very cool. The eye openers are all Lusche recipients. And then Sherry Carlson, our whole room. I think she's by herself. And I imagine there's quite a few Lusches in the Ute Pass room, probably down in Pueblo as well. So what a great honor and a tribute to Norris. And we just wanted to make sure you understood why we do this and who he was, and how special he was, not just to our district, but to Kiwanis. And his legacy lives on for a long time, you know, and it will live on for a long time. So anybody have a question specifically about Norris? No? All right. Well, Gail, what do you want to do now?
Well, I'd like to thank the two of you for taking us down memory lane. It was absolutely a wonderful experience, and maybe we should have a Bob Hope "Thanks for the Memories" song now. Now that we've done I Love Lusche, maybe we should do "Thanks for the Memories." I'd personally like to thank everybody who is a Lusche Fellow, because that is so vital to our foundation and our ability to give to the children of our district. And by the fellowship, that makes it all possible. It's one of our most consistent and best fundraisers that the foundation has. And with that, I also like to sort of hint that check out your inbox in the next couple of weeks, because we may have another award coming up for people to participate in. I can't mention any names, but one good international president deserves another. So look for your inbox in the next couple of weeks, and we may have a big announcement from the foundation to come your way. With that, Josephine or Dawn, do you have anything to close with?
I do, but I want to answer Jennifer Amen's question. Could someone share information about the Lusche Foundation and the Lusche Awards? And I want to know if you are looking for something specific that we can answer for you. Or are you asking how to get one? Or I'm sorry, go ahead.
Let me answer a little bit. And we should have done that. And I apologize. So a Lusche award can be purchased by a member, or somebody can purchase it for you, either way. And it's $1,000. And with that $1,000, you get the shirt that Bob is wearing right there, and a plaque for the wall. Is that correct, Joe?
Almost. They went to an all. They went to a completely all burgundy design. So there's even a little bit of a newer one, and now you can even do polo or button up. And then you get the plaque and a pin back, a purple pin back to go behind your Kiwanis pin.
So they don't do these anymore?
No.
In fact, I think I have one over there. Oh my goodness. I should have thought about it. The original ones were like the size of a hockey puck. They were like this big around, and I'm not going to run over there and get one, but there's one hanging on the wall over there. But the original ones were this giant thing that almost broke everybody's neck when they had to walk and carry it, you know. So I forgot about that till just now. So you get a shirt, a pin back, and a plaque for your wall. And they're great pictures. It has hang on a second. Don't hang up.
Josephine, did we go through all the photos?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Bert has to go get that hockey puck off the wall, I bet.
Yeah, I think that original hockey puck was designed by a Kiwanian who was probably a chiropractor.
I don't know where the hockey puck is. But this is the plaque you get. And that's the likeness of Norris. And I used to always tell Norris, I said, Norris, did they take that when you were 20, maybe 30? Because you definitely didn't take that now, you know. So, but this is what you get when you get a Lusche fellow. So you get that and the shirt and the pin back. And so they're great. I love wearing the shirt. or the jacket at the convention to let everybody know. And I love hanging this up in my office that people can see and ask about Norris. So
We have a question, what the funds are used for. Every club has the ability to apply for a grant from the Rocky Mountain District Foundation. And the funds from the grants are used to help projects throughout the district, mostly almost 100% focused on the children of our district. So if your club has not applied for a grant, you can go to the foundation website, and the website will explain how to apply for a grant and have examples of recent awardees. And that would help quite a bit. So yes, if you become a Lusche Fellow, you help the children in our district.
So I saw it up there, so I grabbed it. Those are the
Whoa.
two. Look at that thing.
Yeah.
So I did not, this is not mine. This was given to me by Jeannie. Before she passed away, she saw some things and she found one and she gave me one of the original ones to keep. So that's, whoever came up with the second plan, they were a great friend to Kiwanis. So anyway, any other questions? Well, Josephine, Gail, thanks for letting us do this. It was a great time. I enjoyed it. Just reminiscing about my friend and Bob's friend and a lot of friends in the room. And if you see Kelly, really give her a hard time for not being part of this. So, but I know she really wanted to be here. So, but we'll still give her a hard time. So.
And Bert, I just got a question too from a member wanting to confirm that this was officially No Pants Saturday to be on this call. So that's why it's all from the waist up.
One of my classic Zoom meeting outfits. Yeah. So yeah. Oh.
I want to thank all three of you for making this happen. It was a great idea. There are a lot of people that just don't know about Lusche, and it is important that we pass that history on. And so thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, Gail, for coming up with that idea and the music, and it really has been a lot of fun. So thank you all for being part of this.
Thank you.
Thank
Governor.
you. Thank you, everyone who attended.
Well, okay, after about a 2-minute stretch, we're gonna start our game, so don't wander off. I think Josephine is gonna help us get ready.
Which one do you want first, Don? I can't hear you.
Let's do Family Feud.
Oh.
And why don't we start in 2 minutes? Everyone's gonna just take a stretch. While we get it set up.